Prince's last Diddy recording played in.
Prince's voice filled the courtroom. Diddy's face completely transformed. His carefully controlled demeanor cracked as the final recording of the legendary artist echoed through the room, a ghostly testimony from beyond the grave. What was in this recording that caused one of music's most powerful figures to lose his composure? Day 3 of this explosive trial has just revealed evidence that nobody saw coming, and the implications are sending shockwaves through Hollywood.
He said he would get physical. The one male guy who did things with Diddy and Cassie said he witnessed him get physical. Don. So again, we talked about how the domestic charges aren't, what he's being, what he's on trial for. But boy, it's stacking up. And I feel that the jury is going to take that into consideration.
Cassie had previously claimed that Diddy would become violent, and one male witness, who was involved with both Diddy and Cassie, testified that he personally witnessed physical altercations. Now, we've discussed how the domestic allegations aren't what Diddy is officially on trial for. But still, the stories are stacking up. And the jury? They're definitely going to take all of this into consideration. I remember the first Diddy party I attended. It was at Prince's house. Imagine going to Prince's mansion for a Diddy party where Tyrese is performing, and Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher are literally swinging on actual swings. That's the kind of wild energy happening just on the other side of the wall. But what made this party different from, say, a Jamie Foxx event, or any other celebrity gathering, was one specific rule: Diddy didn't allow you to bring your own security inside. That detail stuck with me.
First Diddy party I went to was at Prince's house. So you want to go to Prince's house to the Diddy party where Tyrese is performing and Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher are swinging on swings. That is what's happening on the other side of the wall. And so the one thing that makes this party different than a Jamie Foxx party or any other celebrity party that wrangles a bunch of young women or guys or whatever too, is that Diddy didn't let you bring your security.
Day 3 began just like the 2 before it. Journalists rushed in for the best seats. Celebrities slipped in through side doors. Legal teams arranged their papers with practiced precision. But something felt different this morning. The courtroom wasn't just full, it was electric. Security guards stood at every corner of the room. That's normal for a high-profile case, right? But today, they doubled the usual number. 4 officers positioned themselves directly behind Diddy's table, something they hadn't done on previous days. A court insider later told me that special instructions had been issued that morning, though no one explained why. Diddy walked in appearing unfazed. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, nodding at supporters in the gallery and even flashing that famous smile. His legal team surrounded him like a protective wall, whispering strategies. He looked like a man who believed he had everything under control. But he didn't notice the unusual activity at the prosecution's table. 2 tech specialists quietly set up equipment that hadn't been present during the first 2 days. They tested connections and whispered to the lead prosecutor, who kept glancing at Diddy with a look that could only be described as anticipation. Something was coming, and only the prosecution knew what it was. Rumors started flying. A courtroom reporter later told me people were texting each other from across the room, trying to guess what kind of bombshell the prosecution was about to drop. We all felt it. When the judge entered and completed the usual formalities, he paused. "I want to remind everyone," he said, "that regardless of what evidence is presented today, I expect complete composure in my courtroom." His eyes lingered on the gallery. Any disruptions will result in immediate removal. The prosecution began its opening statements just like before, calm, methodical. They reviewed previous testimony and connected the dots between witnesses and evidence. It almost seemed routine, until the lead prosecutor stopped mid-sentence. "Your Honor," she said, "at this time the prosecution would like to present critical audio evidence recently authenticated by our forensic team." She approached the bench holding a small black device. The defense immediately objected, claiming they hadn't been properly notified. A heated sidebar ensued. Diddy's attorneys gestured wildly, but the judge ruled in the prosecution's favor. "The evidence was properly disclosed in discovery," he said. "The prosecution may proceed." That's when it happened. The prosecutor turned to the courtroom. What you're about to hear, she announced, is the final private recording made by Prince Rogers Nelson before his death. The room froze. Journalists stopped typing. A collective gasp rippled through the gallery. Prince, musical genius, icon, was about to speak from beyond the grave. Diddy's lead attorney grabbed his client's arm. The color drained from Diddy's face. His entire legal team huddled closer, whispering frantically. The prosecution connected the device to the courtroom speakers. In the silence that followed, the balance of power shifted. Diddy's legal team knew something devastating was coming. And judging by the panic in Diddy's eyes, so did he.
Trying to listen. I mean, there's a lot of this stuff that I've heard and seen already. I'm really trying to connect the dots here and think like, damn, what if Prince was letting Diddy, like, what if he caught wind of some, I'll just say allegedly, stuff that Diddy might have been doing that seems to be, like, I ain't talking about consensual things, I'm talking about illegal things or whatever. But I'm just like, would Diddy be that dumb to, like, not think that Prince, this celebrity, has cameras in his house as well? So I'm just trying to think, like, because if Prince has cameras and he's recording stuff, you know, to get some dirt on Diddy, I don't know. I feel like Diddy, with all his cameras that he allegedly had, or no, they actually found cameras.
That I don't know, right? What I know is that he was really health conscious. He was a vegan. He didn't abuse alcohol. I didn't know of him abusing drugs. He worked out, so, that also really concerned me, because it made me think that, wow, so you mean you do all these things to take care of yourself? And
what you're about to hear was recovered from Prince's private vault, the prosecutor explained. The courtroom erupted into whispers. People leaned forward in their seats. Journalists frantically typed into their phones. This wasn't just evidence, this was a revelation. The prosecutor explained that the recording had been made just weeks before Prince's death in 2016. This was never meant to be heard publicly, she said. Prince created this as insurance, documenting what he witnessed firsthand. When his voice first played through the speakers, a woman in the third row covered her mouth and started to cry. It wasn't just the shock of hearing him. It was his tone. Prince sounded worried. His voice was low, almost secretive, completely different from his confident stage presence. I'm making this recording because I don't know who to trust anymore, Prince began. The quality of the audio was pristine. You could hear him taking deep breaths between sentences. This wasn't a performance. This was Prince in his most unguarded moment. Then, he started naming names, specific dates, locations. And at the center of it all was Diddy. He described parties at Diddy's homes in the Hamptons and Miami, the same parties 3 previous witnesses had already testified about. I watched Diddy's face. Within seconds, his expression collapsed. His eyes widened. His lawyer whispered something to him, but Diddy just stared forward, frozen. Prince's voice became more urgent. What happens at these parties isn't just wrong, it's criminal, he said. I've seen how they operate. I've seen who's involved. I've seen who gets hurt. Each word hit Diddy like a punch. Prince wasn't just backing up the prosecution, he was confirming their narrative with insider information that couldn't be challenged. You can't cross-examine a dead man. You can't threaten him. You can't bribe him. Prince even described a party in December 2015, naming 2 celebrities who had publicly denied ever attending such gatherings. He mentioned the upstairs private rooms and their exact setup, details that matched the prosecution's opening statements perfectly. The courtroom was dead silent. Even the judge was leaning forward. I tried to talk to him about it, Prince said. I told him it had to stop. He just laughed and said, I should mind my business if I want to keep working in this industry. The prosecutor paused the recording at that exact moment. Every person in the courtroom turned to look at Diddy. His entire facade had crumbled. His face was ashen. His hands, previously still, were now trembling. His lead attorney placed a legal pad in front of him to shield the jury from his visible breakdown, but it was too late. Everyone had seen it. The moment Prince identified him, Diddy's wall of confidence shattered.
It's a big deal back then. is ever since my third album, I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio. So the way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it, and I did all the work. I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise, and they would always hold this contract up and say, well, you signed it. And I say, well, I understand that. It's not like I want to leave. I just want to, talk about this thing and see if we can't make it more fair. Of course, they wouldn't change, because if they changed, they wouldn't really exist. And that's kind of the situation we're in right today. They're not going to exist much longer. But it's not like we're against them or anything like that. The idea is that we find better ways of working with one another. It shouldn't be a situation where they own the album or the work. We're talking about intellectual copyright. If they're going to be indeed a delivery service, then that's fine. But even FedEx doesn't say that they own the thing that they ship.
Cassie Ventura on the witness stand for a fourth day in the federal criminal trial against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The defense continuing cross-examination this morning, confronting her with dozens of her own messages, many explicit, hoping to convince the jury she was an eager sexual partner who matched Combs's desires. I'm always ready to freak off, one message said.
She was into the freak-offs herself and was like a willing participant and was into all the freaky stuff, and essentially that was the crux of what they were trying to do yesterday.
And do you think they proved that or not?
I mean, there's texts like that from 2009. I'm always ready to freak off. There was some other texts where she was referencing like hitting him up about the FOs, is what they were referring to him. To me, like, yes, this doesn't look good, but at the same time, I think the timeline is crucial here. And these are texts from 2009, man. That was when they were first getting in the relationship. She was young. Obviously, they were in the honeymoon stage, and she was stoked to like, oh my God, I'm with Diddy. I'm living this lavish lifestyle. Of course, she's going to be saying things that she knows will curry favor with him.
What truly stunned everyone wasn't just Prince's words. It was watching Diddy fall apart in real time. For 2 days, he had shown no cracks. When accusers pointed fingers, he stayed calm. When damaging photos were shown, he whispered calmly to his attorneys. Not once did he lose composure. Until now. As the recording resumed, Diddy's transformation was shocking. His high-powered attorney placed a hand on his arm, a move meant to calm him. Diddy jerked his arm away violently, spilling a glass of water. Even the judge seemed locked onto him. This was a judge who had seen countless high-profile defendants. He recognized the signs. Diddy was unraveling. He shifted in his seat, loosened his tie, and whispered urgently to his legal team. 3 attorneys leaned in close. Prince's voice continued. He described a gathering in Beverly Hills on March 9, 2016, mentioning an address prosecutors had already documented. The moment Prince said the address, Diddy stood up, abruptly, like he had been yanked by invisible strings. Security moved closer. His legal team grabbed his jacket, trying to pull him back down. They looked panicked. One lawyer whispered frantically, another tried blocking the jury's view. But the recording kept playing. Prince described entering a room and witnessing behavior that matched the prosecution's charges exactly. Diddy's lawyers were desperate now, practically climbing over one another. Then it happened. Diddy completely lost control. "That's a lie," he shouted. His voice echoed through the courtroom. He wasn't even there. That never happened. A reporter in the front row jumped in shock. The judge banged his gavel. "Order! Order in this court!" he shouted. He fixed his eyes on Diddy. "Mr. Combs, control yourself or I will hold you in contempt." The courtroom fell silent, except for Prince's voice still playing through the speakers. And in that moment, the prosecution's strategy became crystal clear. They waited. They let Diddy get comfortable. Then they dropped the one thing that could break him. And it worked.
Things that the Diddy's team tried to do was show how they had breaks, and she like was with Michael B. Jordan and was with Kid Cudi for a minute. But during that time period, she was still having freak-offs with Diddy, and I think that was them trying to show, like, this wasn't a controlling thing. Here she was, like, hooking up with other people. She just was into the freak-offs.
I kind of buy that, to be honest.
So...
like, she's out of the freak-offs then. she is, when she's with Kid Cudi or, allegedly with Michael B. Jordan, she's kind of out of the freak offs if she wants to be. So why do you keep going back? Yeah. I know it's kind of like a mental, she still loves Diddy. Diddy was jealous about her.
Oh, yeah, because that was another thing that the prosecutors were trying to do, is show that, that they had a very jealous relationship. She would get jealous when he's with Kid Cudi. Also, like, Kim Porter, Cassie would be jealous of Kim Porter.
Right.
Trying to show that, like, Cassie, you were in love with this guy. That's why you were jealous.
Right.
So, like, this was a real relationship.
It was just interesting to see Chris Brown.
I mean, he's always coming up somewhere, dude.
He is.
Chris Brown.
All right. Final story of the week. Justin Bieber is not a victim of Diddy. So this was one of those, rumors or whatever that was flying around in the months leading up to the trial. And to be honest, there was quite a few rumors flying around. Was there minors involved? Says, if no other celebrity was part of freak-offs, why are they in hiding? Are they in hiding, though?
I don't think they're in hiding. I just think other celebrities didn't want to insert themselves. No one wants to be tied to Diddy one way or the other.
Even if you're at a white party, just having a lot of fun, one of Diddy's white parties, you don't want to be linked in any way.
No, and that's why, all those people, there's a few people I think that have come forward and been like, I didn't see any of this freak.
After the judge restored order, the prosecution resumed the recording. And what came next shocked everyone. Prince hadn't just made vague accusations. He outlined 3 specific allegations, each directly tied to the case. First, he revealed that he had been documenting disturbing behavior in the industry since 2007. I keep everything, Prince's voice explained. Dates, times, who was there, what happened. Legal experts exchanged glances. This wasn't gossip. This was meticulous documentation. He described Diddy's parties as calculated. I watched him separate young artists from their teams, isolate them, and put them in situations they couldn't say no to. He named a Beverly Hills property and described the room layout, details that aligned exactly with the evidence already presented. Then came the second allegation, a direct confrontation between Prince and Diddy at a 2016 Grammy afterparty. I told him I knew what was happening, Prince said. He laughed and said, "You might be Prince, but you're not untouchable." I took that as a threat. Diddy's attorneys scrambled, clearly blindsided. The final allegation was perhaps the most damning. Prince detailed financial transactions, specific amounts like $2 million and $1. $3 million, that matched the prosecution's records of hush money payments. I've seen the payments, Prince said. I've seen the NDAs. This isn't just bad behavior, it's a system. Prince's voice turned somber. I'm afraid to speak out publicly. The power structure protects people like him. Then he ended the recording with chilling words. If anything happens to me, make sure this gets to the right people. This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who couldn't speak. The courtroom was still. No one moved. No one whispered. The prosecution had just made Prince their most powerful witness, speaking from beyond the grave. The lead prosecutor simply stood and said, "No further questions, Your Honor." She didn't need to say anything else. Prince had already said everything.
Notebooks in their hand. They're coming in. They're very alert. And I think this is one of those testimonies where you have no choice but to pay attention and almost be flabbergasted, obviously, at some of what you're hearing, because it's not only just insight into somebody's sex life, but the details are disturbing at times, especially during that prosecution testimony when we saw some of the alleged abuse, or we saw pictures of her after a beating of some kind, according to her. But the jurors are definitely paying attention. I don't see anyone that's not keeping their focus on Cassie Ventura. And also I noticed them taking notes a lot of times.
And the children, as they were exiting court yesterday, 2 of the girls were seen crying. How emotional have they been in court?
Again, I cannot imagine if that was my father or somebody close to me up there and having to hear details of their sex life. Those are young women. They lost their mother, one of them, the twins. So no one can probably quite understand what it is that they're going through. But I think that's something that you think about on both sides, to look at Alex Fine, which is Cassie Ventura's husband, and think about him having to listen to all that's being said about the type of woman that Cassie Ventura was versus the person that's expecting, their third child together now. So whether it's Combs's family or Ventura's family that's there to support her brother, and her husband, Alex Fine, I think it's difficult on both sides. Seen him taking notes from the beginning. I see him put his glasses on. He gets very close to the screen when they're reading some of those text messages. So he's paying attention.
Now, Ventura confirmed that she and Combs had conversations about a swingers lifestyle, but that the freak-offs, they were very different.
Yeah, so she talked about this idea where I guess Combs wanted her to watch him have sex with another woman. She said that happened 2 or 3 times, but that he mentioned it frequently.
Kim Porter came up today in testimony. What was the significance there?
The defense said early on that this case would be about infidelity, love, and jealousy. And this is where they brought that up today when they brought up Kim Porter's name. The defense asked Cassie Ventura, are you jealous or were you jealous of Kim Porter? And Ventura sort of contemplated, but did get to this moment where she said, knowing that Combs spent holidays with his family, which meant with Porter, did bother her. And she admitted that. They also pointed out that there was testimony where she talked about being insanely jealous overall as a girlfriend. So, yeah.
We're hearing the judge wants Cassie off the stand tomorrow. Will the prosecution and the defense get equal time?
Yeah, as long as there aren't any additional motions, I think that is the goal, to have her off the stand by tomorrow.
Why do you think that? What's the reasoning behind wanting her off the stand tomorrow?
In the very beginning, Rachel, they told us that she would likely be on that stand 2 to 3 days.